So before anyone says anything, yes, this is a really cool cup. Hello everyone, and welcome to a new cosplay how-to video. It's been probably years since I've made one of these, so very excited to get back to my, what was it, 2015 roots? Was that the last time I made a cosplay help video? Anyway, today I'm going to be covering a very highly requested topic, and that is how I store my wigs and cosplays. I get this question so often, and it is something that actually is not really talked about a whole lot, so I thought I would talk to you guys about it today, especially since I finally kind of figured out my cosplay storage system since I moved. It's been difficult kind of figuring out how to store all my cosplays in a newer environment like this, but I finally figured it out. So today I'm going to be talking about how I store my cosplays and my wigs, and hopefully this will be helpful to you guys. I'm also just going to say, obviously the system is not perfect. I'm not saying that this is the absolute like supreme way you should store your cosplays. This is just how I personally store my own cosplays. I feel like that should go without saying, but YouTube comment sections get really wild sometimes. So anyway, there we go. First, we're gonna be talking about storing cosplays, and then we're gonna move on over to storing wigs. So when it comes to storing cosplays, the first thing I do is categorize them. There are two kind of layers of categorization that I have to do. I figure out whether or not it's what I'm gonna be dubbing a hardy cosplay or a delicate cosplay. And then the second round of categorization is whether it is an active cosplay or an archival cosplay. So the first two categories, when it comes to garments, whether it's hardy or delicate, is summed up to whether or not the pieces of the cosplay can be folded and smushed in a bag and they'll survive that, or if they're more delicate and they have to be hung up. So depending on which category the cosplay falls into, most of them fall into the hardy category. There are actually very few that I have that have to be hung up, is the first step to identify. And then the next thing I determine is whether it is an archival cosplay or an active cosplay. Archival cosplay is basically a cosplay that I don't see myself wearing in the like super near future, probably within the next 6 months to a year. Whereas an active cosplay is one that I've either worn recently or plan on wearing very soon. When it comes to archival cosplays, these ones I tend to store in big plastic bins, and these go in a space like a garage or a basement, and I literally just fold these cosplays up very nicely and kind of stack them up in layers. And as you can see, I also store my props in the same way. I just put them in a plastic bin. So you can see in there I have all of my tracer stuff, I have a bunch of little weapon pieces, and this is just a way to keep your cosplays nice and safe when they're in plastic bins. Nothing's gonna crush them, and they're easily stackable. So then moving on to the second category, and that is active cosplays. So active cosplays I store either in my room or in my sewing room. Most of them are in my bedroom. Back in my last home, I stored all of my cosplays in my closet because I had this big walk-in closet. I do not have that luxury anymore. My closet is very small and very packed, so I can't actually put any cosplays in there. So I've figured out a different method of storing them, which I will show you guys. So this is my cosplay storage space. I have these metal little kind of cubby storage units, which I got from Amazon. These are awesome because you can just build them yourself and they're very versatile. In them, that's where I store all of my hardy cosplays. And then for my delicate cosplays, I have this bar that's for hanging stuff up, but it's not actually permanent. It's one that just extends to fit any space that you need. It's super handy. So from there, let's talk about how I store my hardy cosplays. So I'm actually really proud of this solution because it's solved a lot of issues and stresses that I've had about storing cosplays. I do have clinical OCD, so storing things away, especially things like cosplays that I've worked really hard on, has always been really stressful because I've been worried about things getting lost or losing track of certain items or things otherwise getting wrecked in some way. This method has been really awesome for me and has really helped calm all of my anxieties around storing cosplay, so I'm very excited to get to share it with you guys. So what I do is I take these little plastic bags. They're just these kind of medium-sized Ziploc bags meant for wigs and clothing. Obviously, you don't have to have this exact one. Any kind of large Ziploc bag will do. What I do is I nicely fold up all of the pieces to my cosplay, I put them in there, and then I write the character's name on there so I always can keep track of it. This is really awesome just because it's plastic, so it's gonna be protected from things like moisture or moths or what have you, and everything is nicely self-contained. You can just put everything in here. Some cosplays, like my Ash cosplay, since it has all the little armor pieces, I've had to split that up into 2 bags, but for the most part, like 90% of my cosplays, I can fit them all in one bag really comfortably. And also this way, it doesn't take a whole lot of space when you're hanging all of your cosplays up. Obviously they take up more space, but if you're able to fold them up like this, it's a nice kind of compact solution. You can squeeze all of the air out, and then you can fit this into pretty much any space. You can fit it into like drawers, storage units, boxes, whatever you decide to use to actually store these bags. And it's just a really great way of being able to keep track of all of my cosplays and just kind of have that reassurance that nothing's gonna happen to them. So this is a solution that I've been very, very proud of, and it's really helped kind of ease my mind. When it comes to non-fabric pieces, what I do is I have a separate little delicates bin, I guess you could call it, meant for things like jewelry pieces, glasses, stuff like that. I just have a smaller plastic container that I put everything in, and that way, obviously, it's a plastic container, nothing will be able to crush it, and it's all in one place. So now that we've talked about that, let's move on to wigs. Again, I have a lot of wigs, so a lot of people ask me how I store them. Just like with storing cosplays, there's a certain amount of categorization that I have to do. So since I do Lolita fashion now, I have a bunch of wigs that are just like fashion / Lolita wigs. They aren't specifically for any cosplay. So what I've started doing is first organizing my wigs by purpose. So whether they're a cosplay wig or whether they're just a general / Lolita fashion wig. Then from there, the next step of categorization is styled versus unstyled. So anything that's a styled wig or a wig that I'm currently either working on or cleaning up or what have you, those ones I store on wig heads, which I've mounted on these wig clamps, and they just clamp to this shelf in my sewing room. Some people do have wigs that are like in permanent styles, so they always have to be kept like that. I don't personally have that. Wigs that are styled, they're temporary styles, so when I'm done using them, I usually just wash them out and then just restyle them the next time I go to use them. But obviously, if it was a like permanently styled wig, that particular wig would just have a permanent wig head that it would always stay on, and I'd put like a plastic bag and stuff over top of it. Other category is, of course, unstyled. So these are wigs that can just lie flat, and this is how I store like 99.99% of my wigs. So I literally just store my wigs the same way that they usually come shipped, which is wrapped in this little black hairnet and then stored in plastic bag like that. That way they take up less space, they can just lie flat. Wigs are a lot hardier than I think a lot of people think they are, so you can just store a wig in a bag like this. It's not gonna harm it. It getting crushed is not gonna be an issue because it's hair, it's gonna be fine. So that's how I store my wigs, and I always make sure to write the name of the character, or if it's just a fashion wig, I'll write a description of the hairstyle on there, because when you have as many wigs as I do, just looking at the bag, like I have so many orange wigs, right? So when I just look at this bag, right off the bat, if it doesn't have the name on there, I'm not gonna know what it is. So very important, take a Sharpie and just in big letters, write the name of the character so that when you're rifling around for it, see the name of the character, and you're good to go. Then the actual bags, they all go in, again, like with my archival cosplays, in these big plastic containers, again, to help keep them safe and organized. I have two big containers, which I use for my cosplay wigs, because I have way more cosplay wigs than fashion wigs. And then I have a smaller box that I use for all of my fashion / Lolita wigs. And these ones just stack one on top of the other and live in my sewing space. And yeah, I guess that's the entire video. That was a lot quicker than I expected. I'd love to know how you guys store your cosplays. It is kind of an interesting kind of challenge figuring out how to best store your cosplays. So I'd love to hear how you guys choose to store yours. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'll see you guys all next time, but until then, Panda Faces, please be sure to take care. Bye.